Shatter Reflections. Chapter 1. Awakening to Deception. My name is Noah Winters, and every morning I wake up a stranger to myself. I'm 36 years old, a former commanding officer of the Navy SEAL Team 6 extraction unit, and while I can recall every tactical operation of my career in excruciating detail, I can't remember my own wedding. The woman who claims to be my wife, Savannah, shows me video journals to remind me who I am. But today, everything changes. Today, I found evidence that my life is an elaborately constructed lie. The first thing I register is silence, not the peaceful kind that soothes the soul, but the oppressive emptiness that precedes an ambush. My eyes snap open and my body tenses instantly, ready for a threat. My gaze darts around the unfamiliar room, foreign territory to be assessed and cleared. I analyze my surroundings with tactical precision. King-sized bed, nightstands, a dark mahogany dresser, photographs on the wall, bathroom door ajar, a window overlooking a neatly maintained garden with the ocean visible in the distance. A stranger's bedroom, a stranger's life. My muscles coil like steel cables. My hand instinctively searches beneath the pillow for a weapon that isn't there. The door opens, and I'm in a combat stance before my brain can process the information. A woman enters, her smile creating an odd juxtaposition with my defensive posture. An attractive brunette with heterochromatic eyes, left brown, right blue. Heterochromia, my brain supplies, a rare genetic trait affecting less than 1% of the population. "Good morning, darling," she says with practiced gentleness that barely conceals an undercurrent of caution. "Don't remember me again today." There's no irritation in her voice, only understanding and something else I can't quite identify. Resignation. Exhaustion. "Who are you?" I demand, remaining tense. "Savannah," she answers, as if she's repeated this name 1,000 times. "Your wife." My wife. The words bounce off my consciousness like bullets off Kevlar. Impossible. "Listen, Noah. You have a rare neurological disorder caused by a traumatic brain injury you suffered 4 years ago. You remember your military past, but your personal memories from the last 4 years are erased every night." She delivers the diagnosis with the precision of a neurosurgeon, but her gaze remains soft. Too soft. "Proof?" I demand, still not trusting. Savannah nods, as if she's been expecting this question, and retrieves a tablet. She plays a video. On the screen is me, with the same haircut in the same room, but with the expression of a man who knows who he is. "Hello, Noah," I say to myself from the screen. If you're watching this, it means morning has come again, and you remember nothing. Trust Savannah. She's been your wife for 3 years. You met after your return from Yemen, where you sustained a traumatic brain injury that led to anterograde amnesia with selective preservation of procedural memory. I listen to my own voice, clear and confident. The recorded Noah continues. "You still remember everything related to your military career. Skills, tactics, weapons, all of that stays with you. But personal memories, they vanish every night." On the video, I raise my left hand, showing a wedding band. The same one now on my finger. The weight of the metal, which I hadn't noticed until this moment, suddenly becomes tangible. "Is this real?" I ask, though instinct whispers that something is wrong. "Unfortunately, yes." Savannah sits on the edge of the bed, not invading my personal space. This action seems practiced, like all her behavior. "You were a SEAL Team extraction commander, the best in the business. The injury happened during an operation in Aden. Most psychotherapists believe your brain is protecting itself from traumatic memories." I analyze the information. Aden, the operation to extract American diplomats from the consulate. I remember it in excruciating detail. The building's layout, guard positions, the thermal signatures of hostages on my tactical display. But I don't remember myself in this operation. "Dr. Foster, your neurologist, calls it reverse amnesia," Savannah continues, noticing my tension. Usually, people with amnesia lose the past but remember new experiences. You're the opposite. Old memories remain intact, but new ones don't stick. Each morning you wake up with the same memory baseline, the day after returning from Yemen. Savannah opens the drawer of the bedside table and takes out a leather-bound notebook. You keep a journal. You write in it every night before sleep to remind yourself what happened. I, I usually leave you alone so you can read and adjust to the idea. She stands and walks toward the door but stops at the threshold. Breakfast will be ready in 15 minutes. Take a shower if you want. Clean clothes are in the dresser. When the door closes, I open the notebook. The handwriting is unmistakably mine. Methodical notes, factual information, observations. The entries span 4 years. Thousands of days spent in this house with this woman. Days I don't remember. I scan the most recent pages. No mentions of suspicions or oddities. Normal domestic life, medical procedures, therapeutic sessions with Dr. Foster. Weekly calls to my mother who lives in Florida. No signs of danger or deception. And yet, deep inside pulses an irrational feeling that something isn't right, something I can't explain. After breakfast, during which Savannah casually asks if I've remembered anything, she kisses me on the cheek. I barely restrain myself from pulling away and leaves for work. I'll be at the publishing house until 6. Call if you need anything. The number is in your phone under Savannah. I watch her car disappear around the bend, and only then do I allow myself to exhale. I'm alone in a stranger's house, with a stranger's possessions and a stranger's life, and the inescapable feeling that I'm being deceived. Methodically, as if clearing an enemy compound, I begin to investigate the house. A 2-story building in a coastal suburb. 3 bedrooms, a study, living room, kitchen, 2 bathrooms. A 2-car garage with a complete set of tools. I search for inconsistencies, any clue that would confirm the growing sensation of falsity inside me. Photographs on the walls. Savannah and I on vacation, at our wedding, at some charity event. We look happy, genuine, but I don't remember any of these moments. In the first-floor study, I find a laptop. It's password protected. I try several combinations. Savannah's birth date from her driver's license that I found in the hallway, our wedding date from the photograph, military access codes I remember from my service. Nothing works. In the bedroom, I check the dresser with clothes. The sizes fit. The style isn't exactly mine, but acceptable. In the sock drawer, I find a spare magazine for a Sig Sauer P226, but no weapon. I pause for a second, looking at the ammunition. Military instincts suggest, if there's ammo, there must be a weapon, maybe in a safe. But if I don't remember the code, how do I open it every day? I find my phone on the nightstand, an ultra-thin smartphone with a fingerprint unlock. The fingerprint works, so this is indeed my phone. I browse contacts, messages, call history. Everything looks normal. Regular conversations with Savannah, a few contacts labeled work, periodic calls to my mother. The calendar marks weekly meetings with Dr. Foster and scheduled examinations at the neurological clinic. Then I discover something strange, a password-protected folder in the gallery. It's hidden among system files, and an ordinary user wouldn't notice it. But I'm not an ordinary user. My counterintelligence experience allows me to notice such details. I try several passwords, unsuccessful. I try to remember what combinations I might use if I wanted to hide something from myself. Personal dates don't work, they're easy to find. Military codes, too obvious. Something deeply personal, known only to me. 80517. I enter the date of the operation in Aden. Access granted. Inside the folder are photographs. My heart stops, then begins beating with doubled intensity. The pictures show Savannah with a middle-aged man. The photos are intimate, unambiguous, and not staged. They were taken by a hidden camera through an apartment window. The images are dated from recent months. Different days, different times of day, but always the same man. Graying temples, a well-trimmed beard, lean build. In one shot, he's wearing a medical coat with a name badge, but the resolution is too low to read the name. I take a deep breath. My brain automatically switches to analysis mode. I don't allow emotions to take over. Professional training takes precedence. I study the photos with the cold detachment of an intelligence officer. In the background of one shot is part of an office setting, a logo on a folder lying on the desk. I zoom in on the image. Harbor View Institute of Neuropsychology, the same one where I undergo regular examinations, according to the calendar records. I check the contacts in my phone. I find the institute's number and the card for Dr. Benjamin Foster, apparently my attending neurologist. There's no photo, but the name is familiar from the journal entries. I need to see him in person, verify if he's the man from the photos. But first, find out where Savannah is heading. In her work schedule notes for today, it says meeting with reviewers 2:30 p.m. Looking at the clock, I realize I have time until lunch to prepare. In the garage, I find a case with surveillance equipment. Miniature cameras, directional microphones, tracking devices, professional-grade equipment, the kind an operative would use for covert observation. What's even more surprising, everything is arranged in a logical order for me. I've never seen this case before, but I know exactly where everything is, as if I assembled it myself. Maybe I did. Did yesterday's me prepare everything for today's me? I take my car, a black SUV with tinted windows. Surveillance in urban conditions is a complex but achievable task. My search for Savannah leads me not to the publishing house as she claimed, but to a modern building of glass and concrete with a sign reading Harbor View Institute of Neuropsychology, the same place from the photos. I park on the opposite side of the street, put on an inconspicuous jacket and baseball cap from the glove compartment. The cap is new, with a local baseball team logo, but exactly my size. Another detail prepared by yesterday's me. I wait 20 minutes after Savannah enters the building, then follow her. In the clinic lobby, I sit in a far corner, pretending to fill out medical forms. I pull the cap lower, hiding my face from the surveillance cameras. Savannah doesn't appear in the public areas, which means she went into the staff areas. After 15 minutes of observation, I decide to act more aggressively. I approach the registration desk, where a young administrator smiles pleasantly. "How can I help you?" she asks. "My wife was supposed to leave my test results for me," I say with a casual smile. "Noah Winters, I'm Dr. Foster's patient." The administrator checks something on her computer. "Yes, Mr. Winters. Dr. Foster is currently in consultation, but I can provide you with a copy of your chart. You just need to sign a form." She extends a tablet with an electronic form. I sign, surprised by the ease with which I've gained access to confidential medical information. Is this normal practice or part of some scheme? Having received my medical chart, I move to a quiet corner and quickly scan the documents. The diagnosis confirms Savannah's words: post-traumatic anterograde amnesia with preservation of procedural memory. A complex neuropsychological case not responding to standard treatment. From the documents, I learned that Dr. Benjamin Foster is a leading specialist in neuropsychological military trauma, with experience in rehabilitation programs for special forces. His office is on the 3rd floor, according to the indicated number. I climb the stairs, avoiding the elevator with cameras. On the 3rd floor, I notice a sign pointing to Dr. Foster's office. The corridor is empty except for a nurse sorting documents at the far wall. I slip into a side corridor and wait. After a few minutes, I hear voices and carefully peek out. Savannah is coming out of an office with a nameplate reading Dr. Benjamin Foster, neuropsychiatrist. a man follows her. The same man from the photos. Their interaction lasts only a few seconds, a brief exchange of glances, a light touch to the wrist, an almost imperceptible smile. But for me, trained to read nonverbal signals, everything is obvious. There is a deep connection between them that goes beyond professional relationships. Savannah leaves, and Dr. Foster returns to his office. From the schedule on the door, I see that his workday ends at 6:00 p.m. His last patient has an appointment until 5:30 p.m. I decide to wait until then and talk to the doctor alone. Leaving the building, I see Savannah getting into her car. She's calling someone, and I manage to get close enough to hear part of the conversation. He's acting strange today, may have remembered something. No, I'm not sure. A chill runs down my spine at these words. Who is she calling? What is she talking about? What exactly might I have remembered? I need answers, and I'll get them. At exactly 5:35 p.m., the last patient leaves Dr. Foster's office. I observe from a fire exit niche. The corridor empties. The administrative staff has already left, with only a security guard on the first floor and a couple of nurses in another wing. Making sure the surveillance cameras are pointing in another direction, I quickly cross the corridor and enter Dr. Foster's office without knocking. He's sitting at his computer, his back to me, and doesn't turn when he hears the door opening. I asked not to be disturbed after appointments, Jennifer, he says in an even voice. I'm not Jennifer, I reply, closing the door behind me. Foster flinches and turns sharply. An expression flickers across his face that I can't precisely interpret, surprise mixed with fear, expectation. Mr. Winters, he says, quickly regaining professional composure, this is unexpected. I silently approach his desk, not breaking eye contact. Years of interrogations have taught me, silence is often more effective than words. Foster maintains outward calm, but I notice micro gestures, slight tension in the neck muscles, barely noticeable increased breathing, involuntary tapping of his index finger on the armrest of his chair. In 2 steps, I'm beside him, grabbing the lapels of his coat and lifting him from his chair with a sharp movement, pinning him to the wall. He doesn't resist, which in itself is atypical for someone subjected to a sudden attack. Who are you? I ask quietly. Your treating physician, he answers evenly. We meet every Tuesday at 3:00 p.m., though you, of course, don't remember that. His calmness only heightens my vigilance. I take out my phone and show him the photos with him and Savannah. Explain this. To my surprise, Foster doesn't look shocked or ashamed. Instead, an expression of relief appears on his face. I've been waiting for this day, Noah, he says, using my first name without formalities. You're progressing again. What? I loosen my grip, disoriented by his reaction. Foster straightens his coat and gestures for me to sit, as if this were a normal consultation, not a confrontation. These photos are part of your therapy, he explains, returning to his chair. An experimental protocol that you consented to 3 months ago. We use emotional shock as a memory stimulator. Lies, I cut off. I would never. You insisted, Foster interrupts, opening a desk drawer and taking out a folder. Here's your consent, your signature, your idea. He hands me the document. The signature is indeed mine without any signs of forgery. The date is 3 months ago. Savannah agreed to participate, Foster continues with clinical detachment. She's willing to do anything to help you recover your memory. Emotional trauma is sometimes the only key to locked memories. Jealousy, anger, feelings of betrayal, all of these can break through neural blocks. I study the document trying to find inconsistencies. Everything looks legitimate, but intuition, honed by years of field work, screams danger. If this is true, I say slowly, why didn't I leave myself a note about this experiment? Why didn't I warn myself in the morning video? Foster purses his lips. Because conscious expectation of emotional shock neutralizes its effectiveness. It has to be a genuine discovery, a real shock. His explanation sounds logical, but something still doesn't add up. Then why do you meet her in different places? Why do all the photos look like surveillance results rather than staged shots? Details matter, Noah. Your mind clings to inconsistencies. If everything were too obviously staged, your subconscious would reject this information as irrelevant. I step back, analyzing the situation. Foster speaks convincingly. But could a man having an affair with my wife be so cold-blooded when confronted? Or is this really part of some elaborate therapeutic protocol? What are the results? I ask, deciding to support his version. Has this experiment brought any improvements? Foster opens a chart on his computer. See this curve? This is the frequency of neural activations in your hippocampus during memory tests. The last 3 months show a noticeable increase. You're beginning to form long-term memories, Noah. Slowly, with interruptions, but the process has begun. I look at the chart. Numbers, diagrams, medical terms. Everything looks professional and convincing. But is it? I need time, I say finally, to think about all this. Foster nods. Of course, but I would recommend not discussing our conversation with Savannah. It could compromise the experiment. I'll think about it, Dr. Foster. As I leave his office, I notice him taking out his phone, calling someone as soon as the door closes. Intuition suggests Savannah. I don't know who to believe, but I do know I need an independent consultation. I drive to the nearby town of Rockport, far enough to avoid possible surveillance, close enough to return by evening. In the car's glove compartment, I find a map with marked locations and routes, another precaution from yesterday's me. The global navigator marks the neurosurgical center of Dr. Livingston. According to notes in the notebook I took from home, I've never been there. This is important. I need an unbiased opinion from a specialist not connected to Dr. Foster. Before leaving Harbor View, I stop by home and collect a copy of my medical scans from the safe I discover in the study. The code, the date of the operation in Aden, the same one I used to unlock the secret folder on my phone. Predictable for someone with my type of thinking. Dr. Livingston's center turns out to be a small private clinic in an upscale area of Rockport. I register as an anonymous patient, paying for the consultation in cash. The administrator tries to insist on full registration, but a few $100s extra solves the problem. Dr. Livingston, an elderly man with piercing blue eyes and the powerful hands of a neurosurgeon, meets me in his office. To what do I owe this anonymous visit? He asks directly, without standard medical pleasantries. I appreciate this approach. I need your expert assessment, I say, taking out the scans, without records in medical systems and confidentially. He nods, accepting the conditions, and begins studying the MRI and CT scans of my brain. Several minutes pass in silence. His face remains inscrutable, but I catch the moment when he freezes, examining a certain area of the scan. Then the doctor turns on special equipment for a more detailed study. Who performed this operation on you? He finally asks, and there's tension in his voice. What operation? I ask, feeling my pulse accelerate. Livingston points to the screen, enlarging the image. See these microscopic traces? This is surgical intervention of the highest precision. And here, he switches to another scan, traces of regular injections into the hippocampus, the brain area responsible for forming new memories. He turns to me, and professional concern can be read in his gaze. This is not natural amnesia. Someone is deliberately blocking your memory formation process. The room seems to tilt around me. My suspicions are confirmed, but that doesn't make it easier. Are you sure? I ask, though I already know the answer. Absolutely. These traces can't be missed if you know what to look for. Your treating physician must have seen this. And if he's the one doing it, I ask quietly. Livingston leans back in his chair, his face darkening. Then you have serious problems. Such manipulations of the brain without medical indications is a criminal offense, not to mention the ethical aspect. What is this drug that they're injecting? Judging by the pattern of impact, something from the class of selective neurogenesis blockers, military development, not for civilian use. Military development, the pieces of the puzzle start to fit. How often do the injections need to be made? Daily. Judging by the traces, you're given an injection every 24 hours. Missing even one dose will lead to partial restoration of memory formation functions. I remember Savannah's words on the phone. He's acting strange today, may have remembered something. Can the effect be reversed? I ask, feeling anger rising. Completely? I'm not sure. But stopping the injections will definitely allow recovery of some functions. After a month or two without the drug, your memory may significantly improve. I thank Dr. Livingston and leave several $100 more for confidentiality. He tries to detain me, offering hospitalization and protection, but I refuse. I need to return home and find evidence. Someone, Savannah, Foster, or both together, is systematically blocking my memory, and I need to find out why. On the way home, I analyze the information. If Dr. Livingston is right, then my amnesia is artificially maintained through daily injections. Someone, most likely Savannah, injects me with the drug while I sleep. Every night. For how long? Months? Years? Why? What do I know? Or what have I done that requires such radical measures to conceal? Approaching the house, I notice that Savannah's car is already in the driveway. It's 6:10 p.m. She returned on time, as promised. I park and sit in the car for a few minutes, contemplating my strategy. Direct confrontation is pointless. If she and Foster are really manipulating my memory, they've prepared answers to all questions. I need evidence, and I must get it before night falls and I'm reset again. I enter the house with the carefree appearance of a man who spent the day looking through old photo albums and getting used to his situation. "Hi," Savannah calls from the kitchen. "How was your day?" "Strange," I answer honestly, trying to get used to the idea that 4 years of my life just disappeared. She comes over and hugs me. I force myself not to tense up, hugging her back. Her hair smells of shampoo with chamomile fragrance, a familiar scent, but is it genuinely familiar or a trick of imagination? "Dinner will be ready in half an hour," she says, pulling away. "Want some wine?" "Not today," I reply. "My head hurts a bit. I think I'll take a painkiller and lie down." Something like concern flickers in her eyes. "How long has it been hurting? Bad?" "No, just fatigue. A lot of information for one day." "Of course," she agrees. "Rest. I'll call you when it's ready." I go up to the bedroom, lock the door, and begin a methodical search. I check every inch of the room, looking for hiding places where injection drugs might be stored. Behind paintings, under baseboards, in ventilation grills. Nothing. Then my gaze falls on a small painting above Savannah's vanity. A standard landscape, nothing remarkable, but hung slightly crookedly. I remove the painting and discover a safe built into the wall. Digital lock. How many combinations can I try before the anti-theft protection activates? I try to apply logic. What code would Savannah choose? Her birthday? Too obvious. The date of our wedding? Possibly. I try different combinations, but nothing works. Then it hits me. What if the code is the date of the operation in Aden? After all, I used it for my phone and office safe. If Savannah knows me as well as she claims, she might have guessed that I would choose this date. I enter 5,172,018. The safe opens with a quiet click. Inside are neatly arranged ampules with clear liquid and disposable syringes. Several vials with labels that only have an alphanumeric code, RNS 435B military marking for experimental drugs. Evidence found. I take out my phone and photograph the contents of the safe, then carefully close it, returning the painting to its place. My heart beats faster, but my mind remains cold and analytical. Now I must decide how to proceed. Direct confrontation is dangerous. I don't know how many people are involved in this conspiracy. Escape is also risky. Without understanding the full picture, I could be in even greater danger. I decide to set up surveillance. In the equipment case, I find miniature cameras and microphones. I install them at strategic points in the bedroom and living room. I aim one camera at the bed to capture the moment of injection, another at the front door. I finish just in time for Savannah's call to dinner. At the table, we talk about everyday things. She tells me about her work at the publishing house, about the book she's currently editing. I listen attentively, looking for inconsistencies or slips, but her story sounds smooth and plausible. After dinner, we watch a movie, some romantic comedy that is supposedly our favorite. I pretend to be interested, but my mind continues to analyze the situation, calculating options. In the evening, preparing for bed, I notice Savannah checking her phone, turning away from me. I manage to glimpse the screen, a message from a contact simply designated as B. Benjamin Foster. I pretend to be asleep when she lies down beside me. Through a mobile application, I check the feed from the cameras. Everything is working. Now I have to wait for her to make her move. Lying in the dark, I realize that tomorrow morning I'll wake up again without memories of this day. Again, disoriented and vulnerable, unless I prevent Savannah from making the injection. But no, better to let events take their course. Let her think I suspect nothing. Meanwhile, I'll leave myself clues, encrypted but understandable to my military mind, and the recording from the cameras, evidence that I can find tomorrow. I need to act faster than planned, but first I need to see what they'll do tonight, gather all the evidence. And tomorrow the real game begins. A game in which my memory, my identity, and possibly my life are at stake. I close my eyes, but sleep doesn't come. One thought keeps spinning in my head. Who am I really? And what did I do or learn that someone is willing to do anything to make me forget? Chapter 2: Flight and Search. My name is Noah Winters, but I've discovered my identity is a fiction, recreated anew each morning. My so-called wife Savannah and her lover, Dr. Foster, feed me lies about my condition while someone, presumably she, injects me with a chemical memory blocker every night. I'll never know what they're hiding from me unless I break the pattern today. I'm facing a race against an unknown enemy, and I don't even know the rules of this game. My only advantage, they don't suspect I know everything. Not yet. I lie motionless, my breathing slow and measured, pretending to be asleep, a skill honed through years of operations deep in enemy territory. The digital clock on the bedside table shows 2:57. The clock is counting down to the moment when my memory will be stolen again. The cameras I installed in the bedroom transmit images to the phone hidden under my pillow. A vibration warning of movement. Savannah has awakened. Through barely open eyelids, I see her carefully getting out of bed. She moves almost silently, like a ghost. Heads to the vanity, moves the painting, opens the safe. In a black silk robe, she resembles a shadow materialized from darkness. She prepares a syringe, filling it with clear liquid from an ampule with military markings. Every movement is precise. The procedure is clearly practiced to automation. She turns and slowly approaches the bed. My muscles pulse with the impulse to grab her arm, stop her, interrogate her. But I restrain this urge. I need to see the complete picture, get all the evidence. Savannah leans over me gently, almost lovingly, brushing a strand of hair from my neck. I feel the cold touch of an alcohol swab, then a slight prick, skillful, almost painless. The injection is made at a point between the cervical vertebrae, direct access to the cerebrospinal fluid, the shortest path to the brain. Professional technique, not what you'd expect from a publishing house editor. Stepping back from the bed, she takes out her phone and dials a number. She speaks quietly, but in the pre-dawn silence, every word is distinctly audible. The drug is administered, but we're losing him. He met with an unauthorized doctor. Pause, she listens to the speaker. No, I'm not sure how much he learned. According to surveillance, the visit lasted 43 minutes, too long for a standard consultation. Another pause. I understand. We may need to move to the contingency plan. I remain motionless, though adrenaline is already filling my blood. What contingency plan? What will happen if they realize I've figured it all out? How far are they willing to go? Savannah returns to bed, listens to my breathing for a while, then her own breathing becomes deep and even. She falls asleep. I wait another hour. The chemical blocker she injected should have started working, should have erased my memories, turning me into an empty shell ready for tomorrow's portion of lies. But I feel normal. Perhaps the drug's effect manifests during sleep, or it takes time for the substance to reach certain brain structures. At 4:15, I rise silently like a specter. My body moves with mechanical precision, trained by years of covert operations. I retrieve the mini cameras, putting them in my pocket, digital evidence of what happened tonight. I gather a minimal survival kit, spare clothes, cash from a hiding place behind the baseboard in the study, $10,000 in $100 bills, neatly packed in a vacuum bag, a folding knife, a phone charger, a first aid kit. In the study, I discover another surprise. Behind a false panel under the bookshelf is hidden a Sig Sauer P226 with a silencer and 3 spare magazines. And again, a perfect hiding place that I didn't remember each morning. How many more such escape hatches have I left for myself? How many times have I tried to break out of this circle of oblivion? Before leaving, I leave a note, not for Savannah, for myself. I seal it in an envelope and hide it under the 3rd step of the staircase, where I discovered a barely noticeable scratch, possibly a mark from previous attempts. The note is laconic, coordinates of the motel where I'm heading and a warning. Savannah is not who she claims to be. Trust the cameras. At 4:45, I'm already behind the wheel of my SUV, moving toward the interstate highway. I need to be as far away as possible before Savannah wakes up and discovers my disappearance. The Salt Tide Motel on the outskirts of Linden County is a typical 2-story structure with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign. A perfect place to lay low, cheap, anonymous, no surveillance cameras. I choose a room on the 2nd floor with a view of the parking lot and an emergency exit via a fire escape. The first thing I do, once settled in the room, is check the recordings from the cameras on my phone. The evidence is irrefutable. Savannah injects me, then calls and discusses a contingency plan. I upload the files to an encrypted cloud storage that only I can access. After that, I take out a small notebook in a worn leather cover, discovered among my belongings at home. What distinguishes it from other journals is the cipher. The entries are made in a military cryptographic code used only in elite units. An ordinary person would see only a meaningless set of symbols, but for me, it's an open book. This is a contact directory. Names, call signs, encoded phone numbers. Liaison officers, former members of my team, operatives from adjacent units. And one number highlighted in red, Captain James Harris, my former commander. If anyone knows the truth about my past, it's him. I use a disposable phone bought at a gas station on the way here. I dial the number using a special protocol. 3 rings, drop, call back after 27 seconds, then 2 more rings. A duty officer answers. Naval Base Redstone, Lieutenant Morris on duty. I need to contact Captain Harris, I say. Access code Echo Delta 3958. A long pause. I hear the officer inhaling. I'm sorry, sir. His voice sounds tense. Captain Harris died in a car accident 6 months ago. The news hits like a punch to the gut. Harris was the anchor that could hold me to reality. May I ask who's calling? The officer continues with unnatural politeness. An old friend, I reply and disconnect. Something in the officer's voice alarmed me. Tension inappropriate for a standard information request, as if my name was on a special monitoring list. I approach the window and peek through the blinds. A black SUV with tinted windows slowly enters the motel parking lot. 2 men in civilian clothes but with military bearing. One remains in the car, the second enters the registration office. They track the call, quickly, too quickly for standard procedure, so Harris's number was under surveillance. They were waiting for me. I have no more than 3 minutes. I quickly gather my things, take the gun, and head for the emergency exit. And then there's a knock at the door. 3 distinct knocks, professional rhythm. Not a maid and not the motel manager. I freeze in the center of the room, evaluating options. It's not yet 6 in the morning, too early for an ordinary visitor. Hotel security, sir. The voice sounds confident, but I catch false notes. We have a gas leak in your block. We need to evacuate guests immediately. Standard tactic to lure out the target. For a moment, cold rage washes over me. These people didn't even bother to come up with something original. They consider me easy prey. I retreat to the bathroom, knocking over a chair on the floor in the process, creating the impression that I'm moving toward the door. 1 minute, I shout, mimicking panic in my voice. I'm just getting dressed. I methodically prepare defensive positions. Overturned furniture will create temporary barriers. A wire from a lamp, stretched at knee level at the entrance, will make them stumble. A mirror, removed from the wall and placed at a specific angle, will provide a view of the blind spot. From the minibar, I extract miniature bottles of alcohol, pouring the contents onto a towel. An improvised incendiary mixture, not particularly effective, but it will create a smoke screen when needed. Sir, this is urgent. The voice behind the door becomes insistent. I don't answer. I've given them enough time to take positions. I hear muted footsteps. They're spreading around the room. At least 3, possibly more. The knocking is replaced by a blow. The door shutters in the cheap door frame. Another blow and the lock gives way. I'm already in the bathroom, pressed against the wall next to the doorway. I hear the lead fighter stumble over the stretched wire, losing balance. The next operative jumps over the obstacle but lands right on the spilled oil from bathroom supplies. His feet slip, and he falls, allowing me to deliver a precise blow to the back of his head. The third operative is more cautious, enters crouched low, scanning the room with a tactical flashlight mounted on his pistol. His posture betrays him as a professional. I ignite the alcohol-soaked towel and throw it at him. The room fills with smoke and shouts. In the commotion, I move along the wall toward the exit, but a 4th operative appears in the doorway. Instant assessment of the situation. The form of movement, stance, weapon grip, special forces level training. He shoots, but I'm already rolling to the side. The bullet passes over my head, embedding in the wall. No, not a bullet, a tranquilizer. They want to take me alive. With a sharp movement, I overturn a cabinet, creating temporary cover. Through the mirror, I see 2 more entering the room. A professional capture team, trained to work in confined spaces. I take out my gun. I don't want to kill. These people are probably just following orders. I fire at the ceiling, causing a brief confusion, and use this moment to lunge toward the open window. But one of the operatives manages to shoot. Sharp pain pierces my shoulder, this time not a tranquilizer but a rubber bullet for close combat. The limb goes numb, but adrenaline allows me to ignore the pain. I roll through the window and grab onto the fire escape. I descend, jumping over several steps at once. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice movement below. Another operative is blocking the exit from the ladder. I jump down, intercept his hand with the weapon, turn his own body as a shield against the others. Quick pressure on key points, and the operative loses consciousness. I make my way to the parking lot where a shootout begins. Bullets whistle in dangerous proximity. My shoulder pulses with pain, but I continue to move from car to car, using them as cover. Ahead, a black sedan with the engine running. The driver looks around nervously, ready for a quick retreat. I approach closer, reducing the distance with one leap, break the side window, and pull out the driver before he can react. Behind the wheel, I floor the gas, leaving the parking lot with screeching tires. In the rearview mirror, I see pursuers running to their cars. And then a woman's scream cuts through the morning air. Noah, stop. Savannah, her hair is disheveled, her facial expression desperate. She runs out of one of the pursuers' cars. You're in a paranoid episode. We want to help you. For a moment I freeze, my finger trembling on the gas pedal. Her eyes in the rearview mirror look so sincere, full of concern. Then memory returns the image. Savannah at 3 in the morning, injecting the drug into my neck. Her cold, calculating voice, reporting to an unknown interlocutor about a contingency plan. I push the gas pedal to the floor. The sedan takes off, leaving Savannah and her false concern behind. Blood seeps through my fingers as I try to press on the wound on my shoulder. The rubber bullet caused serious damage, a hematoma, possibly a crack in the clavicle, but without penetrating injury. Could have been worse. I changed 3 cars over the next 2 hours, practicing evasion protocols that I had refined over years. The last car, an inconspicuous used sedan, bought for cash from a private seller on the outskirts of Raymond, 30 miles from the motel. I choose a direction opposite to the expected one, returning to Harbor View, into the very den of the enemy. My condition worsens. Pain pulsates in time with my heartbeat. I need medical help, but going to a regular hospital is out of the question. They're surely monitoring all medical facilities in the area. By noon, I reach Harbor View and park in a multi-level parking lot of a shopping center. I change my bloody shirt for a clean one, masking the wound under a loose jacket. At the pharmacy, I buy antiseptic, bandages, and painkillers. Then I head to the last place they'll look for me, Harbor View General Hospital. The emergency department is as always crowded. I blend in with the waiting crowd, mimicking signs of flu, the perfect cover for the paleness and sweat caused by pain. An hour passes in tense waiting. I track everyone who enters, every person in a white coat, every security guard. No one shows any special interest in me. And then I notice her, a nurse with platinum blonde hair and a sharp gaze scanning the waiting room. Her eyes stop on me, and she nods slightly as if recognizing me. But I've never seen this woman before. Or have I? Something in her face seems distantly familiar, like a half-forgotten dream. She walks straight toward me, and I tense, ready for flight or fight. I knew you'd come here, she says quietly without preamble. Follow me quickly. She turns and walks toward a service corridor. I hesitate. This could be a trap, but something in her manner, in her eyes, makes me follow her. We pass through a labyrinth of hospital corridors to an inconspicuous examination room. She closes the door and lowers the blinds. Take off your jacket, she commands in a businesslike tone. Need to examine the wound. I hesitate, assessing the situation. She notices my distrust and sighs. Noah, if I wanted to turn you in, security would be here before you entered the building. Your photo has been sent to all hospital security services within a 50-mile radius. Who are you? I ask, still not removing my jacket. Cassidy James, she replies. Formerly, senior nurse of the neurological department. Actually, the person who's been trying to save your life for the last 14 months. I don't understand what she's talking about, but instinct suggests she's not a threat, at least not an immediate one. I take off my jacket, revealing the wound. Cassidy whistles. Large caliber rubber bullet, they're serious. She treats the wound with the professionalism of a military medic. Her movements are quick, effective, without unnecessary touches. The real Savannah died 3 years ago, she says, having applied the primary bandage. The woman living with you is actress Lauren Mayfield, hired for the Tabula Rasa project. Clean slate, I translate the Latin name. Some government experiment. More than an experiment, Cassidy takes vials and a syringe from a cabinet. A full-scale memory control program. You were one of the first subjects, and the most successful. Why me? I ask the main question. Because you know something, she answers, filling the syringe with clear liquid. Something they desperately try to hide by erasing your memory every night. I step back, looking at the syringe in her hand. What is that? The opposite of what Lauren injects you with, explains Cassidy. A neurotransmitter blocker that prevents their drug from working. Experimental but effective. Neutralizes their chemistry for at least 48 hours. How do I know you're not one of them? Cassidy looks me straight in the eyes. You don't know, but without this, tomorrow you'll wake up not remembering today. All your efforts, everything you've learned, will disappear, and you'll be in their trap again, your decision. I study her face, looking for signs of deception. She holds the gaze calmly, without challenge, but also without obsequiousness. Do it, I decide finally. An injection in the same spot on the neck that Savannah used. A cold sensation spreads along the spine but quickly disappears. We have little time, says Cassidy, putting away the syringe. They know you've escaped. They'll check hospitals first. We need to leave. Where to? There's a safe place. But first you need to rest. Tomorrow is the decisive day. For the first time in 3 years, you'll wake up remembering the previous day. This will change everything. The motel on the outskirts of the industrial zone is even more dilapidated than the Salt Tide, but with a better security system, cameras, metal doors, chains, and bolts. Cassidy registered under a false name, using forged documents of professional quality. In the room are 2 single beds, separated by a nightstand. Cassidy takes a position by the door, giving me a chance to rest. Sleep, I'll take the first watch. You'll relieve me in 4 hours. Professional operative terminology, not a nurse's. But fatigue washes over me in a wave, and I don't have time to ask questions, falling into sleep. I wake up from my own scream, a nightmare in which I see people's faces again and again. Unfamiliar and at the same time painfully familiar. Cassidy is beside me, her hand on my shoulder. Memories are starting to return. The blocker is working. I saw people, I say, trying to grasp the fleeting images. Hostages, comrades, I don't know. Your last mission, she nods. Your mind is trying to collect fragments. I look at the clock, 8 hours have passed. It's getting dark outside. Why didn't you wake me? You needed sleep, she shrugs, and it wasn't hard for me to stay on watch longer. I look at her attentively, trying to assess the degree of fatigue. Military training is clearly evident in her endurance. Who are you really, Cassidy? Definitely not an ordinary nurse. She smiles with the corner of her mouth. Before becoming a nurse, I served in the medical corps of special forces, then transferred to the research department of military psychiatry. That's where I got acquainted with the Tabula Rasa program. You work for them. Worked until I understood the true scale of the project. I try to make sense of the situation. If what you're saying is true, the real Savannah is dead, and the woman living with me for the last years is an actress. Why such complications? Why not interrogate me using conventional methods? Because they already tried, answers Cassidy. And you almost died but didn't reveal the information. Your psychological training proved too good. So they moved to a more complex scheme, creating a controlled reality where you feel safe and gradually reveal information bit by bit, without realizing it. A headache grows as Cassidy speaks. Suddenly, an image flashes before my eyes, a woman with brown eyes laughing at something I said. Not Lauren's heterochromia, but ordinary brown eyes. The real Savannah. I'm starting to remember, I say, massaging my temples. Fragments, pieces. That's normal, Cassidy nods. But full memory will return only if we find your personal file. There must be a key, a trigger they used for the initial blocking of your memory. Where is it? In the archives of the Tabula Rasa program, at the old military base, Neptune. I try to remember this name, but it doesn't evoke any associations. How do we get there? I have access, answers Cassidy. I'm a double agent, officially still listed in the program but working for a group of military personnel who want to expose the project. Sounds too convenient, I note with suspicion. She shrugs. Believe it or not, your choice. But in the morning, you'll wake up and remember this conversation, for the first time in years, and then you'll decide if it's worth trusting me. That night I barely sleep, waiting for dawn. For the first time in who knows how long, I'll meet a new day, preserving the memory of the previous one. Sunlight breaks through a gap in the curtains. I open my eyes and the first thing I feel is disorientation. Then comes awareness. I remember. I remember the Salt Tide Motel, the pursuit, Cassidy, her explanations, the neurotransmitter blocker. The memory of yesterday is completely preserved. Cassidy sits on her bed, watching me. She sees the moment of realization on my face and smiles. Welcome back to continuous reality. And suddenly, like a dam breaking, I'm overwhelmed by a wave of memories. Fragmentary, scattered but genuine. Images of the real Savannah, with brown eyes and a mole on her neck that Lauren doesn't have. Memories of our first meeting in a sandstorm in Aden, where she worked as a war correspondent. Of the wedding in a small chapel, attended only by closest friends. And then darker memories. A special forces team in full combat gear. A night assault, screams, gunshots, Savannah among the hostages, her eyes wide with horror and disbelief when she sees me. They knew we were coming, I whisper, stunned by the returning images. They were waiting for us. Cassidy leans forward. You're remembering Operation Emerald Scorpion. This name triggers a new cascade of memories. A secret mission, infiltration into a terrorist cell, information about held hostages, among whom was Savannah, who came to interview local leaders. It was an ambush, I say hoarsely. Someone leaked the information. They knew the exact time of the assault, the location of teams, everything. Pain pierces my head when I try to remember more. Bright, blinding, it makes me press my temples. Don't rush, Cassidy gives me pills and water. Memory returns in fragments. The blocker neutralized their drug, but years of chemical suppression left their mark. Complete recovery will take time. How many people died? I ask, though deep inside I already know the answer. Your entire team, and most of the hostages, she answers quietly, including Savannah. Another flash, Savannah's body on the floor, blood spreading across the concrete. My hands trying to stop the bleeding. Her last words, which I can't remember, no matter how hard I try. The only way to recover full memory is to find your personal file, repeats Cassidy. There must be a key to what you discovered and why they're so afraid of your memory. I raise my head, feeling rage replace confusion. Then let's go get it. Base Neptune is located 20 miles from the city, disguised as an extensive warehouse complex. Externally, an ordinary logistics area with trucks, workers, and security at the level of a private enterprise. But an experienced eye notices details. The placement of cameras, patrol routes, excessive solidity of the fence. Security regime is minimal on weekends, explains Cassidy as we observe the complex from a hill. Core personnel works Monday through Friday. How do we get in? She takes out a pass with a biometric chip. My access is still valid. They need medics constantly monitoring the patients of the program. I'm on the duty list for today. And me. You come as my patient, directed for additional scanning. Standard procedure for program subjects. She hands me a white medical bracelet with a QR code. This is a pass for internal movements. With it, you can be in most areas accompanied by medical personnel, except for specially protected ones. The plan sounds risky but feasible. The main thing is to act natural. Security is used to seeing medics with patients. This won't arouse suspicion. We drive up to the checkpoint in Cassidy's medical van. She presents her pass. The guard checks it through a scanner. Dr. James, he nods, on duty today. Emergency scanning, she replies in a professional tone. Subject 437 is showing undesirable deviations from the protocol. The guard glances at me. I maintain the vacant expression characteristic of a patient under sedatives. Patient pass. Cassidy shows my bracelet. All arranged by Dr. Foster yesterday evening. The name Foster acts like a magic spell. The guard immediately becomes more respectful. Of course, doctor, proceed. The gates open, and we drive onto the complex territory. Cassidy directs the van to a building designated as Medical Course C. Archives are on the underground level, she says quietly, parking. All program materials are stored there. We need Sector 12, where files of operatives with the highest access level are kept. Yours should be among them. We get out of the car and head to the building. Cassidy confidently leads me through several checkpoints, each time presenting her pass and my bracelet. Her behavior doesn't arouse suspicion, confident but not challenging. Classic technique, act as if you have every right to be where you are. Finally, we descend to the underground level. A long, brightly lit corridor with doors on both sides. Few personnel, mostly technical workers and several guards at key posts. Sector 12 is at the end of the corridor, whispers Cassidy. There's a biometric lock, but my pass should work. We approach a massive metal door with an electronic panel. Cassidy applies her pass and undergoes retinal scanning. A second's pause, then a green light and the click of an opening lock. The archive is a huge room with rows of metal cabinets and electronic terminals. Cassidy quickly orients herself, heading to a section marked Special Contingent, Alpha Access Level. Should be here, she says, scrolling through the digital catalog. Winters Noah, here it is, file 437A22. She extracts a folder from the drawer, thick, with a red top secret mark on the cover, and a photograph that makes me freeze. It's me in the photo, but not in SEAL uniform as I expected. I'm wearing a black uniform without identification marks, characteristic of a completely different unit. Ghosts of the Deep, pronounces Cassidy, seeing my surprise. An elite unit specializing in deep infiltration and psychological operations. You were their commander. I open the folder. Pages with reports, psychological evaluations, mission results. My biography, dotted with black censorship stripes even in a top-secret document. And a photograph of Savannah, the real Savannah, with brown eyes and a warm smile that I'm beginning to remember. I leaf through further and find a report on the last mission, Operation Emerald Scorpion. Secret infiltration into a terrorist cell, months of preparation, gathering information about hostages. And then a crushing failure, team eliminated. Hostages died. The only survivor, myself, severely wounded but physically recovered within a month. On the last page, I see photographs of the operation's aftermath. Bodies in the morgue, including members of my team, and among them, Savannah, her face serene, as if she's asleep. "My God," I whisper, clutching my head. "I remember there was a leak. They were waiting for us. It was a massacre." Suddenly an alarm activates. A piercing, pulsating sound rolls through the room. Red lamps begin to flash, and a mechanical voice comes from the speakers. "Attention, security protocol violation. All personnel remain in place. Response team directed to Sector 12. Cassidy glances at the security camera monitor. "They've discovered us. We have less than 2 minutes." I quickly photograph key pages of the file on my phone, then close the folder. "We need to leave." "Too late," replies Cassidy, looking at the monitor. "All exits are already blocked." At that moment, the archive door swings open. A group of armed guards enters, followed by Savannah. No, not Savannah, Lauren Mayfield, playing the role of my wife. She's not armed and approaches me with a sad smile. "How many times have we been through this, darling?" I instinctively step back, my hand reaching for the gun under my jacket. 14, unexpectedly answers Cassidy instead of me, but never this far. I freeze, shocked by her words. I turn to her, not understanding. "What?" "I'm sorry, Noah," says Cassidy with sincere regret, "but this isn't a government conspiracy." Lauren removes a colored contact lens, making both eyes brown. "It's your mind that created the conspiracy to protect you from the truth." The world around me begins to shatter like glass under a hammer's blow. I look from Cassidy to Lauren, not understanding what's happening. The women know each other, work together. I can't believe Cassidy's betrayal, but everything points to exactly that. The trap was perfect, and I walked into it myself, thinking I was finally approaching the truth. Chapter 3: Truth and Choice. My name is Noah Winters, and I no longer know who I am. 30 seconds ago, I believed I was the victim of a government conspiracy. Now, the woman I thought was my savior stands next to the woman I thought was a traitor. They look at me with identical gazes, a mixture of compassion and professional assessment. My reality is crumbling like a house of cards in a gust of wind. The truth turned out to be more terrifying than any lie I could imagine. My main enemy is my own mind, which created the illusion of a conspiracy to protect me from the unbearable burden of guilt. I stand in the archive of a secret base, trapped between shelves of documentation and the cold truth of my past. In my hands is a folder confirming what I feared most. The metallic taste of fear fills my mouth. My heart beats so forcefully that its thudding drowns out the alarm still wailing somewhere in the distance. And again the door opens, admitting a person I recognize instantly, Dr. Benjamin Foster. Only now he doesn't look like my wife's secret lover. There's no gloating or smugness in him, only the professional fatigue of a man who has gone through the same scenario many times. "Hello, Mr. Winters," he says calmly. "Glad to see you've gone further than usual." "What's happening?" I demand, feeling anger mixing with confusion. What the hell is going on here? Foster looks at me with a long, evaluating gaze, then nods to his thoughts. "I think this time you're ready to hear the truth, the whole truth." He signals the guards to leave the room. They obey with obvious reluctance, leaving the four of us, me, Foster, Lauren, and Cassidy. "After the failure of Operation Emerald Scorpion, you experienced a psychotic break, exacerbated by a concussion from an explosion," begins Foster, sitting across from me. "Your mind couldn't accept that you, a man who always saved hostages, indirectly became the cause of their death, especially your wife's death." "I don't believe you," I object, though the worm of doubt is already gnawing from within. "Of course you don't," Foster nods calmly. "Your brain created a defense mechanism, but this time you've progressed further than ever. Perhaps you're ready to see the evidence." He takes a tablet from his briefcase, turns it on, and hands it to me. On the screen are medical files with my name. The amnesia system is not the result of our manipulations, continues Foster as I review the documents. It's your own defense mechanism. Your mind resets personal memories to avoid trauma. We merely maintain this system because the alternative was catastrophic. He switches the image on the tablet. Now there's a video recording me in a hospital ward, veins on my wrists cut, blood spreading across white sheets. Medical staff tries to stop the bleeding while I scream about betrayal and the emerald scorpion. Your first suicide attempt, comments Foster. 2 months after the operation when memory fully returned, there were others. I automatically look at my wrists, where I now notice thin white lines of scars that I hadn't seen before, or didn't want to see. 14 cycles of awakening, continues Foster, and in each, you created your version of a conspiracy where you were the victim, not the perpetrator. Initially, we tried to work with you using standard psychotherapy methods. Ineffective. Then, we developed an experimental protocol, Cassidy interjects. Controlled amnesia with gradual restoration of memory functions. Lauren agreed to participate in the role of your wife. For therapeutic reconstruction, adds Lauren, to create a safe environment where your mind could gradually accept the truth. I look at them, analyzing every word, every gesture. If this is manipulation, it's flawlessly executed. If truth, then unbearable. Prove it, I demand. Show me evidence that this isn't just another game. Foster nods, as if he expected this. Fair enough. We move to an adjacent room, a small conference hall with a screen covering an entire wall. Foster turns on the system and brings up a series of files. Here are records of previous cycles, he says. Different details each time, but the essence is the same. You discover a conspiracy, go through confrontation, and a crisis ensues. A video appears on the screen, me in some office, holding Cassidy by the throat, pinning her to the wall. Who hired you? I shout on the recording, eyes bloodshot with rage. Who's behind all this? Security bursts in, pulls me away. Cassidy slides down the wall, holding her throat, but in her eyes is not fear but compassion. Next video, Lauren and I in our house. I'm holding a gun to her temple. Tell the truth, who killed the real Savannah? Lauren is crying, but not from fear, from helplessness. Noah, please, I'm trying to help you. And a third video, me in a bathroom, gun barrel pressed to my temple. In the background are Foster's shouts and the sound of a door being broken down. A shot. But at the last moment, someone knocks my hand. The bullet enters the ceiling, not my head. Each cycle led to a crisis, explains Foster, turning off the recordings. After which we restarted the therapy. New legend, new details, but each time you found a way to create a conspiratorial scenario. I look at my hands, they're trembling for the first time ever. A professional soldier whose hands were always steady, even under enemy fire, now can't stop the trembling. Why is it different now? I ask quietly. Why didn't you stop me earlier? Because you've become stronger, answers Cassidy, coming closer. In previous times, your paranoia completely consumed you. Now you maintain critical thinking even in the moment of crisis. That's progress. Perhaps you're finally ready to accept the truth, adds Lauren. I look at them, still trying to find inconsistencies, evidence of lies. Professional training doesn't switch off even now. And if I don't believe, if this is all part of a more complex manipulation? Foster shrugs. Then we'll return to the beginning of the cycle. You'll wake up tomorrow in your house, next to Lauren, without memories of the last years of personal life, and everything will start again. The 15th cycle. But the decision is yours, emphasizes Cassidy. This time we won't impose a choice. You can return to the comfortable illusion, or try to face the truth. I close my eyes, analyzing everything I've heard and seen. If they're telling the truth, I'm guilty of my team's death, the hostages, Savannah. If they're lying, I'll fall into a trap again. But something inside me, a stubborn, unbending core of personality, refuses to run away from reality again, however painful it may be. I need to remember, I say finally, even if it destroys me. They exchange glances, in their eyes simultaneously relief and anxiety. "Are you sure?" asks Foster. "It will be not easy." I know, I nod, but enough lies. I want the truth, the whole truth. The following days turn into a torturous journey of self-discovery. Without chemical blockers, memory returns in an avalanche, fragmentary, painful, but relentless. I remember my career in the ghosts of the deep, years of operations on the edge of war crimes, justified by the highest interests of national security. I meet with psychiatrists who help structure returning memories so they don't crush me with their weight. Foster develops an intensive program of cognitive behavioral therapy. Cassidy monitors the medical aspects of recovery. Lauren. Lauren is simply there, not as a wife or actress, but as a person who knows me better than I know myself. The hardest part, meetings with surviving hostages and families of deceased comrades. Each such meeting is like a knife to the heart, but I force myself to look them in the eyes, accepting the pain as part of healing. Parents of Marcus Jensen, my deputy who died in my arms. Sister of Samantha Woods, communications specialist whose body was never found under the rubble. Daughter of Thomas Reed, sniper whose last radio transmission was interrupted by an explosion. And Savannah's family. Her elderly father, with tears in his eyes, tells how proud he was of his daughter and how he doesn't blame me for her death. "She knew the risks," he says, squeezing my hand with his wrinkled palms, "and loved you with all her heart." I visit the cemetery where Savannah is buried. I stand at a simple granite headstone, remembering every moment of our short life together. Now I can remember her laugh, her habit of thoughtfully twirling a strand of hair around her finger when working on an article, her passion for justice, which ultimately led her to the den of the Emerald Scorpion. "Hello, Commander." The voice catches me off guard. I turn and see a middle-aged man in civilian clothes, but with military bearing that no suit can hide. "Who are you?" I ask warily. "A friend of Captain Harris," he answers. "My name is Jason Webb. We served together." I study his face, trying to remember. An image surfaces in memory, a young intelligence officer receiving a briefing before a mission in Kabul. "Lieutenant Webb." "Major now," he nods. "Glad you're starting to remember, sir." "What do you want?" I ask directly. "I'm no longer in service." "Harris didn't die in an accident," he says quietly, looking around. "He was killed because he found this." He hands me a small flash drive, unassuming black, without identifying marks. "What is this?" "Evidence of betrayal," replies Webb. "Operation Emerald Scorpion was deliberately sabotaged. Information about the assault was leaked directly to the leaders of the Emerald Scorpion 24 hours before the operation began." I clench the flash drive in my fist, feeling the cold metal digging into my palm. "By whom?" "Better see for yourself. Harris knew you were the only one who could finish the job if you ever came back. He believed in you even after everything that happened." Webb steps back, preparing to leave. "Be careful, Commander. These people are still in power and have killed for lesser threats." When he leaves, I stand motionless, clutching the flash drive like a lifeline, or like a grenade with the pin pulled. In the evening, in a secure location, I review the contents, encrypted files requiring a password for decryption. I try various combinations related to the Emerald Scorpion, but nothing works. And then I remember Savannah's last words, which I had long tried to recover in my memory. 4 words spoken in a fatting voice: "Finish what you started." I enter, FINISHWHATYOUSTARTED. The files open, and I see the evidence with horror: electronic correspondence, audio recordings, bank transfers. Data stolen from the most secure government servers unambiguously indicate the operation was deliberately sabotaged. The Emerald Scorpion received exact information about the time of assault, team positions, evacuation routes. The information was leaked from the very top, by the man whose signature is on the order for the operation, Admiral Warren Prescott. The files also contain the reason, a political deal. Prescott received guarantees from the leaders of the Emerald Scorpion that the planned terrorist attack at an international forum would not affect the American delegation. In exchange, he gave up the assault team and hostages. 23 lives, including my wife and my people, in exchange for diplomatic advantage and personal gain. The rage I had suppressed for so long finally finds a worthy target. Not an abstract conspiracy created by my inflamed mind, but a specific person whose betrayal cost everything I loved. Admiral Prescott's mansion in a Washington suburb is guarded by professionals, former military who know their business. But there's no security system that the commander of the Ghosts of the Deep couldn't overcome. I penetrate inside after midnight, silently neutralizing the perimeter alarm and putting the guards to sleep with a special fast-acting gas. My movement through the house is soundless, skills developed through years of training, proved stronger than amnesia and psychological trauma. The Admiral's bedroom is on the second floor. I sit in a chair by his bed and wait for him to wake up. I don't need to wake him. The professional intuition of an old warrior will do it for me. 22 minutes pass. Prescott opens his eyes and sharply sits up in bed. His hand reaches for the bedside table, where a gun is surely hidden. I wouldn't, I say quietly. The weapon is unloaded. Prescott freezes, peering into the darkness. In the moonlight from the window, I see his face, strong-willed, with proper features and the cold eyes of a strategist. Now, for the first time, fear can be read in these eyes. "Winters," he says hoarsely, "they said you were locked forever in a psychiatric clinic." "I got out," I reply calmly. "Remembered some things, for example, who exactly leaked information to the Emerald Scorpion." He doesn't deny it, doesn't try to justify himself, just looks at me and says, "I deserved this." I raise the gun, which until this moment I had kept lowered. Prescott doesn't even flinch, professional composure or acceptance of the inevitable. 23 people, I say, including my wife and my people, for what? Higher interests of national security, he answers automatically, but there's no conviction in his voice. We prevented a larger terrorist attack. Don't lie to me, I cut him off. I have all the evidence, the deal with the Emerald Scorpion, political guarantees, financial transactions. Harris dug it all up before his death. At Harris's name, Prescott flinches. You spoke with Webb. He passed me what Harris found. The Admiral lowers his head. So you know everything, do what you must. His readiness to die almost disarms me, almost. I raise the gun to the level of his face. One shot and justice will prevail. An eye for an eye, a life for 23 lives. My finger on the trigger tenses. And I lower the weapon. Instead of a shot, I place a folder with evidence on the bedside table. A copy of everything that was on Harris's flash drive, plus my own additions collected over the past few days. I could kill you, I say quietly. But I prefer that you live with the same burden that I do. Tomorrow, copies of these documents will be received by key people in the government, military prosecution, and journalistic circles. What you did will become known to everyone. Prescott looks at the folder, then at me. You'll destroy my life. You destroyed 23 lives, I counter, and mine included. Consider it a fair exchange. I head for the exit but stop at the door. Savannah believed that the system ultimately works, that truth always comes out. I'll give it that chance, a chance that you took from her. 1 year later. The New Horizon, Rehabilitation Center is located in a picturesque valley, away from city noise. A modern building of glass and wood, surrounded by gardens and training grounds. A place where veterans with combat trauma learn to live anew. I created it with compensation received after the story of Prescott's betrayal became public. The Admiral is under investigation. The process is slow, too many high-ranking people involved, but the truth can no longer be buried. Today we have a new group, 6 men and 2 women diagnosed with PTSD. All with combat experience, all with ghosts in their eyes. Some wounds never heal completely, I say, opening the session. But we can learn to live with them and even find in them the strength to help others. After the session, Lauren approaches me, not as fake Savannah, but as a person I've gotten to know anew over this year. Her hair is shorter now, natural color instead of dyed, and both eyes are brown. She no longer wears colored lenses. "How are they?" she asks, nodding toward the departing group. "Fighting," I answer simply, "like all of us." We walk across the center's grounds. Lauren stayed with me, no longer as part of therapy but as a person with whom I share a unique experience of overcoming trauma. Not love, it's too early for that, perhaps it will never come to that, but understanding, deep and unconditional. "Cassidy called," says Lauren. "She'll come next week with new treatment protocols." Cassidy now heads a research center for neuropsychological rehabilitation. Our center is an experimental platform for her methods. "Good," I nod. "Everything going according to plan?" "Yes, the first results are encouraging." We reach a small memorial on the hill, 23 stones, symbolizing those who died during Operation Emerald Scorpion. In the center, a larger stone with Savannah's name engraved. "She would be proud of you," says Lauren quietly, "of what you're doing now." I don't answer, just look at the stones, remembering the faces of those who will never return. Memory no longer resets every morning. Now I remember everything, every day, good and bad, and I've learned to live with this burden. In the distance, the new wing of the center is visible. Construction is almost complete. There, civilians with PTSD will undergo rehabilitation, victims of disasters, attacks, terrorist acts. My life will never be the same, but now it has a purpose larger than myself, helping others collect the fragments of their broken lives, finding meaning where it seemed there could be none. And maybe in the process, I'll finally find forgiveness, not from others but from myself.